Amabie, a peculiar Japanese yokai depicted as a mermaid but with the beak of a bird and 3 tail-like legs who emerges from the sea to deliver prophecies. In recent years, Amabie has risen into the forefront of the Japanese public consciousness, but why? The legend's earliest record dates back to 1846, when a strange light was spotted out to sea each night off the coast of Kumamoto. The strange phenomenon continued until a man went down to investigate. Before him appeared Amabie, who declared, "I am Amabie, who lives in the sea. For the next 6 years, there will be abundant crops across the land, but there will also be epidemics. Share my picture with all those who fall ill as soon as you can, and also like and subscribe." Then Amabie disappeared into the depths. The story circulated around Japan for the next few years, and many more sightings were reported, all with the strange creature who claimed that should their image be shared, they would dispel the plagues. And therein lies the secret to Amabie's modern popularity. In early 2020, Amabie began to be depicted again across Japan, being shared by artists across the country, hoping to bring a swift end to the global sickness. Amabie can be seen in artwork, sign, drawings, and even lunchboxes and noodles in the spirit of hoping for a better tomorrow. Regardless of how effective that might be, one thing is true. Amabie, who lives in the sea, has achieved their goal of fame and being shared across the globe, in a really fascinating account of a kind of cultural chainmail. Tenome. On a cold night, an old blind man walks down a dark path, but not alone. A cruel bandit, who sees nothing more than an easy target, assails him, taking what little he had and leaving him for dead. As the poor man dies lying in the grass, he cries out with his last breath, "If only I could have glanced once at their face. If I only had eyes that worked, even if only on the palms of my hands." Life was cruel to the old man, and death not a fraction kinder. Filled with resent, the man's dying wish was granted, causing him to be reborn as a yokai, with eyes on the palm of his hands, just as he had asked for. On dark, lonely nights, like the one where the blind man met his final fate, Tenome now walks in the opened fields and graveyards, seeking his vengeance. Appearing as an elderly Zato, a type of blind guildsman, Tenome has no eyes on its face, for they are embedded in its palms, a fact it conceals from its victims until the last possible moment. By the time you are close enough to recognize that this is no ordinary blind man, it will be too late, striking out at you. And even should you escape for a moment, Tenome are supernaturally fast and with a keen sense of smell to hunt their prey. Once captured, this creature will examine you with its palms, studying your face to see if it has finally found the cruel man who started this whole curse. Even learning that you are not will be no salvation, as Tenome has an insatiable hunger for human bones, which it rips from your flesh. A victim of this yokai will be nothing more than a pile of skin and organs by the time the sun rises, and until that cruel man from long ago is found, Tenome will wander again the next night, thirsting for its vengeance. This yokai was requested by a commenter, and is one I have only recently learned of. However, its image was familiar, and I was not surprised to learn that Tenome have been the inspiration for a variety of different stories and creatures, some of which you have likely seen before, such as the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth, or numerous appearances in both Japanese and Western anime. Gashadokuro might very well be the most disturbing and terrifying yokai in all of Japanese mythology. Their name means starving skeleton, but might more accurately be described as giant skeletons. 15 times larger than the average man, Gashadokuro are abominations, created collectively from the bones of warriors who died on the battlefield and were not buried. The dead's burning desire for vengeance causes Gashadokuro to roam the landscape at night, grabbing lone travelers and biting off their heads to drink their spraying blood. Worse still, they are able to render themselves invisible and are almost completely indestructible. They will only stop when their hunger for vengeance is quenched. Certain Shinto charms may slow them down, but the only real defense is to run and hide, and since they cannot be seen unless they wish it, you will only know of a Gashadokuro approaching you if you hear a loud ringing sound in your ear and the sound of its rattling teeth. They do not feel pity or remorse, and they will not stop until their anger is released. Then they will crumble into ash and disappear. The legends of the starving skeleton date back over 1,000 years, when a bloody rebellion was led against the nobles by the samurai Taira no Masakoto. For his actions, a bounty was placed on Masakoto, and his head was brought back to the central government of Kyoto as proof of his demise. Masakoto's daughter, however, was a powerful sorcerer, and used the bodies of the fallen to summon Gashadokuro to attack Kyoto, depicted in the now famous print Soma no Furu Dairi by Utagawa Kuniyoshi. The abomination ravaged Kyoto until Masakoto's head was moved to Shibasaki, a fishing village that would later become Edo, and then later what is now Tokyo. Even today, the head remains in a shrine across from the imperial palace. Despite the cost of the land, this shrine is maintained to appease his spirit, and you can even pay your respects to him yourself, should you ever visit Tokyo. Okuri-inu. This yokai appears as a large black dog, or sometimes wolf, and is found in dark mountain passes and wooded roads in Japan. Somewhat similar to the European legends of the black dog or hellhounds, Okuri-inu means escorting dog or seeing off dog, carnivorous and particularly fond of the taste of humans, but with its own moral code. An Okuri-inu will follow travelers at night, keeping their distance, following footstep by footstep, almost as if a friend is seeing you off. They will not attack you unless you trip and fall. Then they will pounce and rip you to shreds. Okuri-inu respects strength and detest weakness, so you must continue your journey without any missteps. They are not completely unreasonable, however. They will allow you to take a short rest, provided it's not too long. And if you do fall, this could be your only hope. By pretending your misstep was intentional and making light of the situation, you may fool the Okuri-inu into believing you were just taking a moment before continuing on. And it may sound strange, but Okuri-inu can be as much a blessing as they are a curse. Their ferocity is well known by all, including other yokai who may wish to cause you harm. So while you're being followed by one, no other monster or wild animal will dare attack you. And provided you do not lose your footing, there is no better guardian in a lonely mountain than this dog. If you should make it out of the mountain safely, you should turn and call out, "Thanks for seeing me off." Never again will the Okuri-inu follow you. You should wash your feet when you return home, and leave out a plate of something for it to eat, to show your gratitude for it watching over your journey. Oni. One of the most prevalent yokai, Oni is usually translated as ogre, and while they definitely have ogre characteristics, they can also appear as orcs or even demons. They are typically bulky creatures with one or more horn, and are almost always the villains in any story they appear in. Oni are born when a wicked human dies and arrives in one of the Buddhist circles of hell. They are servants of Lord Enma, ruler of hell. From this point on, their duties are punishing the wicked, but not those wicked enough to become Oni in the first place. They take delight in crushing bones and peeling the skin off those they torment. It is possible, however, that a human is so wicked that their souls become beyond redemption, and at this point, they can transform into an Oni while still alive, fleeing from their homes to find a new one in the mountains, and will terrorize and devour any livestock or human unfortunate enough to encounter them. Oni are so prevalent in Japanese stories that they are some of the few yokai that are known outside of Japan, and locally are so ingrained in the culture that each year in February the Setsubun festival takes place across Japan at shrines and in people's houses. The tradition involves throwing soybeans out the front door, or at family members dressed as Oni, and shout "Oni out, fortune in" before slamming the door. Setsubun can be so large that crowds of over 100,000 people gather to celebrate it in Tokyo, hoping for fresh luck for the year. Akaname. Some yokai are evil, and some are more or less good. Others are playful or just silly, and then some are just stomach-turning. Today's creature might be simultaneously the most harmless, but also the most disgusting creature on my list. Akaname means filth licker, a complete degenerate creature that's sole purpose is to lick filth and mold that collects in bathtubs and bathrooms.
Oh boy, here I go
licking.
again.
Japan is a very humid country in the warmer months, and any resident will surely know the frustration of keeping bathrooms clean from the mold that can grow seemingly overnight here. Evidently not a recent problem, the story of Akaname goes back to the Edo period. In that time, it was believed that fish were born from water and lice were born from dirt. Since fish take in water and lice take in dirt, it was believed that all things spawn from the material they devour. Thus, Akaname, also called Akaniburi, came from the air of places that gather dust and filth, and also sustain themselves from it. The size of a child, and in the appearance of a sort of goblin with a long tongue. What's interesting is that unlike many other yokai, Akaname, as far as I can tell, have no accounts of harming humans, and are in fact quite afraid of them. Nonetheless, they may wait until the dark hours of the night to sneak into your home in the search for delicious filth, scattering like roaches when faced with light. Akaname hate clean places, so by keeping your house in order, you will never have to confront one, and likely their whole origin dating back to some parent who made them up in an effort to get their children to clean the bathroom for once. This one was quite a strange one, wasn't it? But I hope you enjoyed it all the same. Bake-Kujira. Originating from Western Japan, Bake-Kujira are the ghost of whales hunted in the seas of Japan. They have no flesh, but glow an eerie white and are followed by strange birds and hideous fish from the depths. Long ago, when whales were still plentiful in the Sea of Japan, that's long ago, a whale would be a huge boon for any fishing village. Vast stores of meat and oil could be harvested from them, and greedy fishermen could not resist the potential prize. But it came with a cost. The souls of the whales continue to roam the seas, and any who laid eyes on a Bake-Kujira would be afflicted by its curse, bringing back plague and famine to their homes. One rainy night on the Shimane Peninsula, some fishermen spotted a strange white shape off the coast, which could only have been a whale. Excited, they rushed to their boats. Disregarding the dangerous seas, they rowed out into the bay. They launched their spears, but there was no flesh for them to gain purchase. Horrified, they realized that below them swam the skeletal remains of a Bake-Kujira. Desperate to return to the shore, some of the boats were lost in the dark waters, but those who survived did not last long, as they had brought the whale's curse to the village. Soon after, being consumed by a plague, the skeletal whale never returned to the village, but even if it did, there would have been no one left to see it. Omukade. There is one creature in Japan that strikes fear into all that see it, or even hear its name. The Omukade is a giant Japanese poisonous centipede, practically the snake of insects. These horrible creatures have a nasty habit of making old homes their nests, and delight in crawling under your sheets while you sleep, looking for something soft to bite. Omukade bites are so prevalent that any koban or police box in Japan carries Omukade antivenom. And those are just the real Omukade. The yokai Omukade is as terrible as the real ones, but large enough to wrap itself around a mountain, trample towns, or make dragons fear them. This yokai can be found close to the shores of Lake Biwa, and made Mount Mikami its home until it was slain by Fujiwara no Hirosate. Omukade have armor for skin, but strangely are vulnerable to human saliva, which is corrosive to them. In a poetic twist of fate, this mimics the real Mukade's actual bite. Creatures like a spider or a scorpion envenom their prey with fangs or stings that act as a needle injecting the toxins, but the Mukade bite is actually a pinch. They do not have fangs, but two hardened front feet that they use to pierce the skin. Then they spit their painful saliva into the wound, which causes the strong painful burning sensation. Fujiwara slew the Omukade by coating his arrow in saliva, giving new meaning to giving your enemy a taste of their own medicine. Jorogumo, a malicious yokai in the form of a giant spider, a shapeshifter who can change its appearance into one of a beautiful young woman. Dating back to the Edo period, Jorogumo is also known as the mistress of the Jorin Falls in Shizuoka. One day, a man was resting at the foot of a waterfall, awaking to find his feet bound by multiple spider threads and slowly being dragged into the water. Thinking quickly to free himself, he cut the threads and bound them to a nearby log that was soon pulled into the water. Softly, the man heard a voice, saying a single word. Clever. As he fled from the falls, returning to the village to tell his story and warn the others, people stopped visiting the waterfall entirely. However, one day, a woodsman logger from outside of the town was passing by. Unaware of their story, he began to cut down trees in the area when he foolishly dropped his axe in the water. As he approached the pool, a beautiful woman appeared and returned the axe to him, telling him to never tell anyone about her. He kept the promise for a time, One night, he fell drunk and told his secret to those nearby, then returned home to fall asleep. Awakening in the night, he found his legs bound in spider silk, being pulled into the woods and never to be seen again. Jorogumo is one of many spider legends of Japan. This yokai shares its name with the real spider, the golden orb weaver, a particularly large and terrifying spider that can be seen across Japan from late summer to autumn. As a seasonal creature, Joro spiders usually only live for a single year and grow extremely quickly. However, they occasionally survive for a few more and reach a size large enough to catch small birds. According to the legend, however, as each year they grow, they become more powerful. Should a normal Joro spider reach 400 years old, it will gain supernatural intelligence and magical powers, gaining the ability to shapeshift, and also shifting its preferred taste to that of young men who are looking for love. The meaning of the name Jorogumo means binding bride spider, and while they often thrive in dark places of the wilderness, can from time to time inhabit an abandoned house in the middle of a city, drawing in new foolish men, binding them and draining them slowly as they feed, filling the house with the dried husks of foolish men who fell for her appearance. Tsukumogami. On the more lighter side of yokai, Tsukumogami are a collection of creatures with incredible variety. The name has two meanings. The first is tool-kami, or tool god. All originally begin as normal objects, such as an axe, umbrella, or futon. After long years of service and reaching 100 years old, the object receives a soul and becomes intelligent. From that moment on, the Tsukumogami will act of its own accord and may become mischievous or continue to serve faithfully. The second reading of Tsukumogami can be read as 99, as it was a tradition to throw away old objects when they would turn 99, preventing them from becoming possessed and causing trouble for their owner. The act of this was called Susu Harai, a type of spring cleaning, but taking place at the end of the year. What really interests me about Tsukumogami is the sheer variety and creativity of all the kinds that you can find, such as Bake-Zori, possessed ghost sandals, Biwa Bokuboku, a sentient biwa instrument, Boroboruton, a possessed futon, Kasa Obake, or umbrella ghost, who has many of his own stories and appears as a Japanese paper umbrella with two hands, one eye and leg, and will hop around and take joy in sneaking up behind people and giving them a surprise with a big wet lick. There are many more Tsukumogami, and with so much potential for any object to become one, they are not only a great storytelling opportunity, but also a good way to remind people to clean up old objects that have been gathering dust for the years. Just think, this strong zero I found at my family mart that just happens to be 99 years and 364 days old could become self-aware by tomorrow, unless... Tanuki, a shapeshifter and animal of the same name. Tanuki, also referred to as Bake-Danuki, are quite similar to the Kitsune. But while it is said that the Kitsune has 7 disguises, the Tanuki has 8, superior to the fox as a master of shape changes. Tanuki can also cast powerful illusions, and while the fox may transform to tempt humans, Tanuki do so to fool people and make them seem stupid, just for the fun of it. As the animal, Tanuki are found across Japan and often called raccoon dogs, and while they can be found across the countryside, fields, and even streets of cities, they are elusive and shy. I have seen Tanuki over the years, but much to my disappointment, I've never really been able to get a good photo of them due to their shy nature. As yokai, their image can be seen across Japan in the ceramic statues that are made famously in Shigaraki, Shiga Prefecture. Tanuki are very playful and human-like in nature. They love to drink and gamble, and will transform into humans to do so, and can become addicted to these vices just as we do. It would be remiss to mention Tanuki without also mentioning one, or should I say two, of their most defining characteristics. Those big old balls.
Oh my!
Tanuki, possessing the confidence the rest of us can only dream of, proudly display their massive balls wherever they go, and use them as tools when shapeshifting, such as into carts or umbrellas. In Japan, a famous nursery rhyme goes, Tantan Tanuki no kintama wa kaze mo nai no ni Buddha Buddha, or Tantan Tanuki balls, even when there is no wind, they go swing swing.
Wow!
They also like to play them like drums, which makes it sound like ponpon or pompoko, which is the name of an old Japanese film animated by Studio Ghibli, where a group of Tanuki use their shape-shifting powers to convince humans not to destroy their habitat by showing them that magic still exists in the wilds of Japan. Habitat destruction and expansion being a very real threat to Japan's countryside creatures. Hanzaki. While many Japanese yokai have their basis in pure superstition, the Hanzaki is based on the very real Japanese giant salamander. In fact, Hanzaki is the alternate name for salamander, which are usually referred to as Osansho, giant pepperfish. Practically living monsters, the salamanders can grow over 1.5 meters and are found in the mountains and rivers of rural Japan. They also give off the strong smell of pepper which comes from their skin. This alternate name, Hanzaki, means to cut in half, since it was believed that these creatures could regenerate from such an injury. And again, this is based in reality. The Japanese giant salamander does have amazing regenerative abilities and can even regrow lost limbs, though not to perfection. The severed arm will regrow, but not with the dexterity of the original. It is certainly possible that the yokai Hanzaki could really be a monstrously sized salamander that existed before the wilds of Japan were explored. As a yokai, the Hanzaki rarely encounters humans, unless it has grown so large as to devour cattle or people. In legend, there was once a deep pool where a monstrous Hanzaki lived, where it would wait to prey on those unfortunate to pass by. The villagers of the era sent out for help. A hero answered the call, and with a sword he dove into the pool, swallowed whole by the Hanzaki, but taking his sword he cut it in half from the inside out, and killed it. Dragging it from the pool, it was over 10 meters long. The village rejoiced, but the same day, a curse fell over the land. The town was haunted night after night, until the hero and his family died together on the same day. Believed to be the work of the vengeful Hanzaki spirit, a shrine was built to honor it as a god. Thereafter, the curse was lifted. Today, the shrine still stands, as well as the gravestone of the hero, and it can be visited in Ibara, Okayama Prefecture. And every year the town holds the annual Hanzaki festival in its honor, Rokurokubi. These poor souls are not born as yokai, but become them through a curse. The curse of the Rokurokubi will only affect women, and by day they will appear normal, but after falling asleep, the neck will begin to stretch, becoming longer and longer until its head is flying around the room. The head will hunger for small animals and the oil from lamps, and they will torment anyone inside their reach. Cruelly, this curse usually is not the result of anything the afflicted woman has done, but by the actions of her relatives or husband. In a twist of fate, they will suffer for the transgressions of the men close to them. Rokurokubi are certainly disturbing, but they are at least still limited by the attachment to the body. Unfortunately, as the affliction grows, they will lose this tether, becoming Nuke-kubi. The neck becomes a spirit cord, sustaining the head but allowing it to fly any distance from the body as long as the host remains asleep. These disembodied heads become ever more hungry, no longer content with the oil or small animals. They now seek human prey, flying through the night and screaming as they attack any poor unfortunate soul they can find, draining them of their blood. As the day returns, so must the head to its body, and as the woman awakes, she will have no memory of the actions of the night, and must face those she has harmed in ignorance of their suffering. Many have sought to cure the Rokurokubi curse, however, few have succeeded, and learning of the terrible actions they inflict on their loved ones and neighbors have forced many of the cursed women to take their own lives to preserve their family's honor. Toire no Hanako-san. Japan is a very superstitious place, especially when it comes to the number 4 or shi, similar in sound for the word for death. This number is often avoided where possible. My own apartment, 305, should really be 304. The apartment next to mine is 303, but 304 is missing from this building suspiciously. Skipping the number just in case on apartment buildings is just one example of this superstition, but today's video is not about the number 4, instead the number 3. This is a story of Hanako-san, or Hanako of the toilet, and Hanako-san could be called Japan's version of Bloody Mary, a popular Halloween challenge or dare for students staying overnight in a school. The story dates back to the 1940s. Hanako was a schoolgirl during World War II, while playing hide and seek, and hiding in the 3rd bathroom stall on the 3rd floor of her school. Tragically, on this day an air raid flew over and bombed the area. The school was hit, and this is where she died. In modern times, those brave enough to try and summon her spirit must wait in a school until after dark, then enter the girl's bathroom on the 3rd floor, stand outside the door and ask, "Hanako, soko ni imasu ka? Hanako, are you there?" And then knock 3 times. You may get a reply. The door will slowly creep open and reveal Hanako in a red skirt. Hanako will ask you, "Do you need a friend?" Regardless of your answer, Hanako does, grabbing her victims by the legs and dragging them into the toilet, never to be seen again. Yurei, are the ghosts of the dead in Japan. Their name means faint spirit. In Japanese belief, all humans have a soul. When a person dies, their soul enters purgatory, where it waits for a proper funeral so that it may join its ancestors. If the funeral rites are performed correctly, then the soul becomes a protector of the family and will visit each year in August during the Obon festivals. However, should someone die in a sudden violent manner, if the rites are not performed, or if they are influenced by powerful emotions such as jealousy, sorrow, or vengeance, the soul transforms into a Yurei and can bridge the gap back to the physical world. This Yurei will exist in the world until the ritual is performed to resolve the conflict that prevents the Yurei from moving on. Particularly vengeful Yurei are often referred to as onryo, and they are powerful enough to cause the living harm, injuring or even killing them, and in some cases, even causing natural disasters to enact their vengeance. It can be difficult to see Yurei, but they are often depicted as wearing a white burial kimono, long unkept hair, and pale faces, and they're said to inhabit the haunted places of Japan, such as the well of Himeji Castle and Aokigahara, due to the number of suicides taking place in the forest. Kuchisake Onna, one of the more malevolent yokai you may encounter in Japanese urban legends. Kuchisake Onna means slit-mouthed woman, a malicious spirit of a woman who partly covers her face with a veil. There are many depictions of Kuchisake Onna, but in all of them, she will carry a sharp object, such as scissors or a knife. And she will always ask 2 questions of her victims. She will appear before you at night and ask you, "Am I pretty?" If you respond no, she will immediately kill you with her weapon. If you respond yes, she'll remove her veil, revealing her face, her mouth cut open from ear to ear. Then she asks again, "How about now?" If you answer no, she will cut you in half. But if you respond yes, then Kuchisake Onna will take her scissors and slices your mouth from ear to ear, resembling her own disfigurement. As a more contemporary yokai, she is nonetheless one of the more popular stories in Japan. Her origin is vague, generally an adulterous wife or mistress of a samurai during life, dying by mutilation. She now stalks dark places of the earth seeking revenge, and to make others suffer her own fate, appearing across multiple media, from games, anime, and even her own live-action film. Her popularity has even led to this handy conversation flowchart, which begs the question, is there any way to survive unscathed from an encounter with the slit-mouthed woman? And there may be some hope in this regard. Some stories claim that if you continue to say she is pretty, it will appease her wrath, but most seem to agree that if you describe her as average or so-so, she will leave you in peace, or confuse her long enough for you to run away. Hibagon. Hibagon is a more recent creature, more cryptid than yokai, and what could be called Japan's Bigfoot or Himalayan Yeti. Sightings of the creature were first reported in the 1970s around the area of Mount Hiba, Hiroshima Prefecture, described as approximately 5 feet tall with black fur and large white feet and hands, and with a vaguely gorilla appearance, much smaller than its American counterpart. Hibagon is said to flee from people, and especially the armed hunters that have been searching for it for the past 50 years. Japan does have primates, such as the macaque, but at only 2 feet tall, it'd be quite a stretch to explain Hibagon's existence by a particularly large monkey. There is no one explanation for the existence of the creature, ranging from stories of an escaped zoo gorilla to a wild man living in the mountains, and even suggestions of a mutated survivor of the Hiroshima nuclear attack. In recent years, Hibagon has been more elusive compared to the 1970s, where there was a string of sightings all across the area, the first of which being a large group of elementary school students who were foraging in the mountains, who witnessed Hibagon crashing through the brush. Then later, farmers spotting their crops being stolen, and numerous truck drivers reported seeing the beast crossing dark wooded sections of the road before disappearing back into the trees. Throughout the many accounts, the consistent detail is that Hibagon is always described like a beast with black fur, but human and intelligent eyes. But what do you think? Totori is famous for the legend of the white rabbit of Inaba. One day, a white rabbit on the Oki Islands wanted to travel to the shores of Totori, but could not swim. But he had a cunning ruse. He told a shark he wanted to see whose clan had more members, the rabbit or the shark clan, and told the sharks to make a line from head to tail towards Totori. He would then run along their backs and count the sharks as he passed. The sharks fell for his plan, and he used their backs as a bridge. But just before reaching the shore, he boasted how clever he was to deceive the sharks. Enraged, the sharks lashed out at him, biting him and skinning him with their teeth. An important reminder to always cross the river before insulting the crocodile's smile. But the tale doesn't end there. Washed up on the shore, the rabbit was found by traveling brothers hoping to marry a fair princess of the land. The older brothers were cruel to the rabbit, but the youngest was kind and told the rabbit to wash himself in the pure water of a river and roll in the pollen of a cat's tail. The rabbit was healed and predicted that the princess would marry the young, kind brother. The rabbit lived happily ever after in the lands of Inaba. Dodomeki are a cursed human yokai, often women with long arms, covered in hundreds of small bird eyes. This is a curse that results from stealing, which might sound strange, but this is due to two reasons. The first is that in ancient Japan there was a belief that people with long arms had the tendency to steal. The second being that Japanese dosen copper coins had a small hole in the middle, which can be seen on the 5 and 50 yen coins today in Japan. These holes led them to being called chomoku, bird's eyes. The combination of these idioms resulted in the Dodomeki stories, and while very creative and making for a shocking first encounter with the cursed women, she holds no other supernatural abilities and need not be feared any more so than you would any other traveler you come across, provided you keep a close hand on your coin purse.
I'm calling security.
Onamazu. Also known as the Jishin Namazu, or earthquake catfish, these giant fish lurk in the muddy waterways, and especially the waters of Biwako, largest lake in Japan. These monsters share many traits with their smaller cousins, but are especially violent and when enraged will thrash about, shaking the earth and causing devastating earthquakes to rage over the country. There are many depictions of people banding together to subdue the beasts and bring an end to the destruction. This yokai has an interesting history, as there may be some elements of truth to the myths. Throughout Japan's history, fishermen have spotted strange behavior from catfish, witnessing them thrashing about for no discernible reason, only for an earthquake to strike shortly after. Rumors spread suggesting that the Namazu could see the future and were reacting to it, but others still thought that they were in fact the cause. While still unproven, there is some data to suggest that catfish may have some ability to detect changes in pressure and vibration that precede the advent of an earthquake, much in the same way that we believe cats and dogs have an uncanny ability to take shelter before a coming strike. But what do you think? Kitsune. Kitsune is both the Japanese word for fox and the yokai of the same name. Legends of Kitsune are some of the oldest and widespread across Japan and even abroad. When a fox reaches 100 years old, it will grow a second tail. An additional tail will grow every 100 years. With each tail, the Kitsune will grow wiser and more powerful, gaining supernatural powers to shapeshift or possess humans. They will continue to grow more powerful until they gain their final 9th tail at 1,000 years old, referred to as a Kyubi no Kitsune, 9-tailed fox, or also a Tenko, celestial fox. At this stage, they are so powerful, they gain the ability to see and hear everything in the world, and will ascend to the heavens. This form is the most well known outside of Japan, and the inspiration for the Pokemon Ninetales and the Kyubi seen in Naruto. But there are many more varieties. The two most common Kitsune are Zenko, literally meaning good foxes, also called Inari foxes, who serve the Shinto god of rice and can be seen as statues around shrines in Japan, such as the famous Kyoto Fushimi Inari, and Yako, or field foxes, who are at best mischievous and at worst malicious. Mischievous kitsune often transform into beautiful women to full men, and will occasionally marry and have families with humans. The term kitsune gao, or fox-faced in Japanese, refers to women with narrow faces, close-set eyes, thin eyebrows, and high cheekbones, traditionally considered attractive and fox-like. It was said that a beautiful woman appearing alone at night was likely a kitsune in human form, and while they are powerful shapeshifters, they have difficulty hiding their tails, which they may reveal by accident or appear while they are drunk, and their shadows are always in the form of a fox. They have a fear of dogs, and dogs can immediately detect their presence. Once discovered, they will return to their original form and flee. Futakuchi Onna. These women are not born as yokai, but become one due to a curse. Appearing as normal women, they have a second mouth hidden on the back of their heads that they must feed. Long ago, there was a frugal man who had not married because he did not like to spend lots of money on food, which is totally reasonable when you think about it, because he works really hard for that and doesn't want to spend it all on one fancy dinner. But he met a young woman who did not eat at all. He had finally found his perfect match, and soon after they were married. It wasn't long, however, that he noticed that though his wife did not eat during meals, strangely, his supplies supplies were running out all too quickly. He discovered the truth all too late, that while the Futakuchi Onna appears to eat very little, when no one is looking, they eat twice as much. This isn't due to the curse, however, it's because they are women. Futakuchi Onna will not order the french fries, because she absolutely can't eat french fries, but she will have them all the same. And if she asks you if you think she looked better during university, you must under no circumstances answer. Hitori Kakurenbo. Do you like to play with yourself? Good, then you'll enjoy this game. Hitori Kakurenbo means one-person hide-and-seek. This urban legend is quite recent, originating in 2006 as a horror ritual game. You can try it for yourself after this video. Here's what you'll need: a stuffed animal with arms and legs, rice, a needle with red thread, nail clippers, a glass of salt water, knife, basin or bath, and finally a TV. First, give the stuffed animal a name, then tear it open, remove all the cotton, then fill it with rice, which represents the organs. Next, cut some of your own fingernails with the clippers and place them inside as well. Sew the toy together and wrap the red thread around the body. This represents the blood vessels. Fill the bathtub or basin with water, then decide where you will hide and place the glass of water there. You'll need this later. At 3 AM you can start the game. Say out loud to the animal, first it, is, and then say your name 3 times to the stuffed animal. Go to the bath and submerge the animal. Quickly, turn off all the lights in the house and turn on the TV only. Close your eyes, then count to 10 in the dark. Then go find the animal and stab it with the knife. Next, say, "You're it," and leave the animal with a knife stuck in its chest. Now quickly retreat to your hiding place. What happens next you'll have to find out for yourself, but it's important to finish the game before 2 hours are up. And do not turn on the lights or go outside under any circumstances. You may hear movement outside your spot, or the sound of a knife tapping on doors. Be quiet, don't make any noise. To end the game, take the salt water and hold it in your mouth. You must find the stuffed animal. It will not be in the bath anymore. Under no circumstances let the water spill before you find it. Spit over it while shouting "I win" 3 times. If the animal finds you first, or if you cannot find it at all, then do not go to sleep until you do, or you will never wake up. Kijimuna. These small wood spirits make their home in the banyan trees of Okinawa. The size of a child but with large heads and red hair, a playful and benevolent creature that will not harm humans unless their trees are cut down. Across the archipelago of the southern Japanese islands, there are many stories involving the Kijimuna. They are great fishermen, able to catch many fish, but prefer to only eat the left eye and throw the rest away. Whenever a fish is found lying on the shore missing an eye, it is said to be their work. The Kijimuna and human society are very similar. Apart from living in trees, they will have a family, get married, raise children, and in some cases marry into human families, or befriend humans, who they will visit many times over the years. Although they do enjoy playing pranks on people, such as sitting on your chest while you sleep, and this could be explained by ancient accounts of sleep paralysis, much in the way that it was explained by demons in Western countries, albeit in a much cuter package. Makuragaeshi. What if I told you that this yokai was in your very home right now? Indeed, most people on Earth have encountered this beast, but don't be alarmed, as they are mostly harmless tricksters, whose sole purpose, as its namesake, is flipping your pillows. Makuragaeshi wait in the dark for you to fall asleep, then swap your pillow's position, from your head to your feet, or even reverse the direction you are sleeping, something I'm sure we've all encountered. These are spirits that will haunt a single room, and if they are really infuriated, they might even leave dirty footprints around your floor. While disturbing your sleep cycle might be reason enough not to want one in your home, and sounds like a simple prank, there is a more sinister side to the act of pillow flipping. In ancient Japan, it was believed that the soul leaves the body while dreaming. But if your pillow is flipped during this time, the soul cannot return to the body until it's corrected. Some that have wished to return as powerful spirits after their death have even requested that their pillows be flipped at their funeral to accomplish this. Hashihime, which loosely translate as Bridge Princess or Lady of the Bridge, are a rare and often unheard of yokai that appear in ancient Heian period poems. These are the spirits or kami that attach themselves to a location, specifically bridges, and often appear as a beautiful woman in a long white dress. The larger and the older the bridge is, the more likely that it will have a spirit attached to it, and the more prominent the bridge, the more powerful the Hashihime will become. And herein lies the real danger. Spirits that inhabit locations and objects are fiercely protective of them, and Hashihime in particular are prone to jealousy. If anyone is foolish enough to speak too fondly of another bridge in their presence, they will incur the wrath of the spirit and will be cursed, making them a real threat and not what I thought of when I first heard the name Bridge Princess. I hope you enjoyed today.
This episode sponsored by Only Bridges. Only Bridges, page after page of bilfs. How do you like these? Oops, lost the plank! Careful not to stick your foot in there. I'm old enough to be your grandma. But maybe you could teach me something new. But I can only handle one person at a time.
Old, bold, and uncontrolled.
Oh no, my suspension cables! Don't tell the others I'm really an aqueduct. I'll do anything if you promise.
Onlybridges.com. Tengu. This creature treads the line between yokai and demigod, and can be good, evil, or just mischievous. While their name means heavenly dog, they are usually depicted as red humanoids with the wings of an eagle, but with an exceptionally long nose, which is something I can relate to. Said to be the harbingers of war, the Tengu is mostly found in the deep mountains away from civilization, and are associated with the Yamabushi practitioners of Shugendo, a form of mountain worship that believes that the hardship, living alone in the mountains, is the path to enlightenment. A Tengu will often carry a magical feather fan that can both make your nose grow or shrink in size. I wonder if I can borrow that. But also can summon great winds. They are also said to be great practitioners of the martial arts, and who can also be persuaded to teach their skills to those that prove worthy. The Tengu has gone through many changes over the years, from enemy to guardian and wise mountain hermit. It's hard to say how they will react if you come across one in the wilds of Japan, but be sure to treat them with respect if you do. Shirime. Long ago, a samurai was walking down a dark and lonesome road in Kyoto when he heard someone calling for him to wait.
What was that noise?
He asked nervously, then turned around and found a man stripping off all his clothes and pointing his bare buttocks at the traveler. A huge eye opened where the man's anus should have been and started to stare at him. The samurai fled in terror, and that's the whole story. While other yokai might lead you to your death or kidnap your children, Shirime, whose name literally means butt eye, is solely motivated by surprising people at night, giving them the stink eye, then running off, laughing. Heikigani. This is another yokai that is also a real creature. Heikigani are crabs that have a samurai's face on their shells. As the legends go, during a bloody war between two powerful clans, the Genji and the Heiki, when the Genji's archers' arrows rained down upon the Heiki fleet, the warriors that sunk to the bottom of the ocean would be feasted on by the crabs, their faces being eaten and their vengeful souls become lodged in the shells of the crabs. That would depict the scowling faces on their shells for all eternity. The real crabs, Heiki-Opus japanica, really do seem to have the face of an angry warrior on their backs, which is why they are nicknamed the samurai crab. It's a truly remarkable coincidence that this Japanese crab just happens to resemble a samurai mask, almost too perfect in fact, so perhaps there is some truth to the legends. Noppera-bo. This is one that I genuinely find creepy. This yokai can appear as any person, but with no face at all. Appearing late at night and in the lonely places of the world, the Noppera-bo will appear as normal from behind, until the moment you are face to no face with them. Fortunately, their main motivation is merely terrifying individuals at their worst, but they are exceedingly adept at this, and will even work in groups to accomplish their goal. A typical tale of an encounter with a no-face ghost will begin with the victim running in horror from the faceless creature to find help. When describing the horror to the nearest individual, they will often respond, "No face." You mean like this? This may continue several times until the apparitions have had their fill and leave the poor person alone. There is something really uncanny and horrible about the idea of a faceless person, which is probably why they appear in almost every culture, and I can't help but be reminded of how much these tales resemble the early Slender Man stories from a few years ago. Akurokamui. In the Ainu legends, there is a beast that stalks the Uchi-Ara Bay of Hokkaido, a terrible giant octopus-like creature that is said to be over 120 meters or almost 400 feet long. Akurokamui is both feared and revered as the Lord of the Bay and can be appeased by offerings. But when the water turns red, the area must be avoided at all costs, as whole ships or whales can be swallowed by this Japanese kraken. Sailors to this day will carry scythes in precaution should the giant arms of the beast begin to wrap around their vessel. And though the creature is deadly, it grew renown in Shintoism as a kami that can bestow knowledge or even healing powers on the faithful due to its ability to self-amputate and regrow its lost limbs. But it is very fickle in nature. Akurokamui was not always in the form of an octopus. Its name means string-holding kamui, kamui meaning god to the Ainu, similar to kami that are found in the rest of Japan. The strings this creature held were spider silk, as its original form was a horrific giant spider that descended from the mountains to bring destruction to a small fishing village. The villagers prayed to the god of the sea, Ripun Kamui, and hearing the prayers dragged the giant spider into the sea, who would transform into the form that it now holds, to become the lord of the bay and lurk its depths forever. Kodama are spirits of the forest that inhabit trees. A tree that potentially has a spirit inside it can also be called a Kodama. Kodama may most well be known from the Studio Ghibli movie Mononoke Hime. The older a tree becomes, the more likely that it will be the home of a Kodama, and anyone that attempts to cut down a great tree with a Kodama inhabiting it will become cursed. To make sure this does not happen, if a tree is suspected of housing a Kodama, it will be marked with a shiminawa, an enclosing rope that are often seen at temples around Japan, and small shrines can be built at holy trees to appease the Kodama spirits. Many of these can be seen on the island of Yakushima, where many Japanese cedars called sugi are found. Any sugi tree that is over 1,000 years old is referred to as a yaki-sugi, and this is the forest that inspired the film Mononoke Hime. Kappa means river child. It is depicted as an amphibious greenish humanoid imp with webbed hands and feet, a turtle-like shell on their backs, and a dish on their head that holds sacred water. In legend, they are found in rivers and ponds around Japan. They are clumsy on the land, but agile in the water. Not necessarily evil, but troublemakers. Their deeds can range from merely picking up a woman's kimono, or to outright drowning people and kidnapping their children. But most horrifying of all, they are often accused of stealing a mythical organ from humans called the Shirikodama, which I'm not making this up, is a ball that they take from Uranus. Kappa are strange folk. They love cucumbers and sumo wrestling, and are very polite. Bowing to a kappa forces it to bow in turn, which means that the mystical water from its head can spill out, weakening or incapacitating the kappa. However, should you find yourself facing a particularly irate kappa, you have two options: a sumo wrestle into submission, or, and I'm still not making this up, you can fart them away. But be warned, as the kappa has 3 anuses, and 3 times the gas a human can produce to match, so you might need 2 friends to take one down. Should you subdue a kappa, they may reward you by bringing you fish or irrigating your farmland, but ask yourself, is it really worth it? Yuki-Onna, described as inhumanly beautiful, her face framed with long black hair, but with blue lips and cold eyes that strike fear into any mortal who gets lost while journeying through snowy mountains. A spirit that floats across the frozen land, leaving no footprints. She is often depicted wearing a white kimono and blends into the snowy landscape. She will appear in snowstorms and lead people astray. Her breath can freeze people into blocks of ice, or drain their life force with a kiss. Some say she is the spirit of someone that perished in the snow. She is simultaneously serene and beautiful, yet ruthless in taking her victims' lives. The story of the Yuki-Onna is one of the oldest, dating back hundreds of years and found all across Japan. She is almost always a malicious spirit, and not one you would ever wish to encounter alone in the mountains. In one popular legend, however, a handsome young man encountered a Yuki-Onna who chose to spare him due to his appearance, but makes him promise not to speak of her to anyone ever again. Many years later, the young man had grown, married, and had children with a beautiful woman. He told his wife that her appearance reminded him of a beautiful, mysterious spirit he once met in the mountains. Enraged, the wife revealed that she was the very same Yuki-Onna that he had seen all those years ago. Infuriated that he would break his promise, she told him that she wished to kill him for lying to her, but chose not to out of concern for the children that they had together. Then she melted away, never to be seen again. Okiku. Well, we made it to the 31st. Happy Halloween, and for our last story, I searched for something really scary, and I think I may have found it. This is the true story of the Okiku doll. In 1918, a 17-year-old man named Eikichi Suzuki purchased a traditional doll for his 2-year-old sister, Okiku, while he was on a maritime expedition. Something about the doll instantly caught his eye. It was about 40 centimeters tall, wearing a traditional kimono, had shoulder-length hair that was pitch black, but still appeared like a baby with gums and no teeth. And after returning home, Suzuki presented the doll to his little sister. She fell in love with it immediately. They played together every day. She treated it like her sister. When she could start to talk, she even called the doll Okiku after herself. and both of the Okikus were always together. She would take it to meals, try to feed it, and also sleep with the doll. Later, in 1919, tragedy fell over Japan. Fevers were breaking out across the country, and Okiku's family was no exception. The young girl became sick, and at just 3 years old, she died, holding the doll firmly in her grasp. The family wished to bury the doll with Okiku, but due to the scope of the fever outbreak, the government's resources were very low, and this last act of kindness was not honored. The family decided to place the doll on their altar, a small shrine to celebrate her life and mark her passing into the afterlife. And this is where the horror begins to unfold. One day, the family started to notice the doll's hair, once shoulder length, was different, longer, messy, and with split ends reaching down past her waist. At night, they started to dream of their daughter Okiku, but always, in the back of their minds, the doll was there too. They began to notice changes in their home, sounds at night, lights being turned off and on, and the soft sound of delicate footprints in the night. These intensified on days close to their daughter's birthday and also near the date of her death, and would subside afterwards, but only briefly. In a strange way, the family grew to love the doll, and whatever it was their last thread that connected them to their daughter. In 1938, the family decided to relocate. However, fearing how this change and that moving further away from the grave would affect Okiku, the family sought help, approaching a local temple, asking them to take care of the doll. The priest sympathized with the family's situation and agreed to help. The family then informed them how to care for the Okiku doll, that she must always be locked inside at night, and that her hair should be kept short. In the present day, the doll is now located in the Manenji temple. Recent samples of the hair that has continued to grow have revealed that it is indeed the hair of a human child. You can even visit Okiku yourself, sit in her room alone, and try and talk to her. Photos are forbidden at the temple, but those who have visited have reported that the mouth of the Okiku doll is slowly opening, and if you dare peek inside, you will be able to glimpse her baby teeth starting to sprout through the porcelain gums. I hope you enjoyed this true Japanese ghost story. We finally made it through October and I can hardly believe it. Let me know which yokai you liked in the comments, check out the other videos in this playlist, and subscribe to see what we get up to next. Peace.